This week I fight Moonkins, and Moonkins are a fairly rare species. You don't really see them that much in high rated arenas or in general PvP. So I don't know if this guide will help a lot of you guys out there, because you don't really fight Moonkins, but since I'm fighting the best of each spec, I'm just going to do a duel guide anyways, and if it helps you, cool. If it doesn't, then you can just skip this video. So a lot of you guys were actually disappointed that I didn't fight Thyraz from EU. And I got like a bunch of comments of people asking me to do that, but you guys gotta know that I'm on the US servers and he's on the EU servers. So the only way we would actually meet up in Duel is if we met up on the PTR. And we actually did meet up on the PTR before I fought Maori, and he was actually lagging on the PTR, so he couldn't beat me. And I didn't want to post a video of just me winning every duel because that's pretty lame. So I went out and fought the next best thing, or the best thing, however you want to perceive it. But yeah, don't get pissed off, guys. I tried fighting him. He was lagging, so he couldn't beat me, so I went on to fighting Maori. Maybe once I start gearing a 90 on EU, then I can do that, but for the time being, this series is meant to be me fighting the highest players of each spec on the US servers. So yeah, if you don't like that, you don't have to watch, but that's what I'm doing here. So yeah, anyway, let's get started on the duel guide. Okay, so as for the setup, I really like to use Palm Frostjaw versus Moonkins. And Palm Frostjaw is amazingly good because you can deep freeze from range without having to go close to them, making it obvious that you're going to burst. And I know that I said you shouldn't use Frostjaw versus Druids because they can just shapeshift it, but that's only versus like Ferals mainly, because you can't take Palm, you have to take Blazing Speed versus Ferals because you have to kite them. But as for Moonkins, you don't really need Blazing Speed as much. I mean, it'd be helpful to, speed up to them to avoid them from kiting you, but it's actually not bad to use Frostjaw and Palm together so you can, catch them off guard. Say like you're casting a Frostjaw without Palm, then it's so easy to shift it because you can just shift it at the last second of the cast. And as for shields, I like to use Ice Barrier instead of Temporal Shield because most of the damage comes from dots, and a lot of the time, since you have more of the uptime in the duel, they're just going to be running and try to heal themselves while the dots are taking on you. And they do have burst with Star Search procs, but there's an easy way to counter it, which I'll teach you in a little bit. As for my glyphs, I use Defreeze Glyph for obvious reasons. I used Ice Block Glyph to use both defensively and offensively. If you don't know what this does yet, it pretty much makes you immune to all spells for 3 seconds once you come out of Ice Block. So if they like beam on you, you can block, and then it's pretty much going to be like an aura mastery, so you won't be silenced. And then you can, stay on the offensive side. And then last is I take Evocation Glyph over Polyglyph because you can't poly Moonkins because they're already an animal. And Evocation is really nice heals when you're falling behind on the duel, and the Druid is, out of line of sight. You can just pillar and then Evo to full. As for the Fat Chicken's burst, like I said earlier, you just want to watch out for their instant Star Search procs and either CC him, line of sight him, or Spell Steal. Preferably Spell Steal because you can stay offensive and you don't have to pull back. So, rotate your mana gem cooldowns efficiently and Spell Steal them accordingly. And their next burst is also Starfall, which is a 1.5 minute cooldown. It pretty much like summons stars from the air to shoot down on you, which is also their burst. If they coordinate this with instant Star Search procs, you can actually go down really quickly. But yeah, watch out for that. Either save block for that, or if you don't have it, then just pop your mirror images. If you do pop your mirror images, the Starfall divides into your mirrors, so you take less damage yourself. As always, now I'm going to be commentating over one of the duels I had with the Moonkin. I'll be letting you in on my thought process and also going over a few mistakes that I did so you don't make them yourself. So now the gates are going to open. The first thing I'm going to do is invis so I can get a clean opener. And he's going to try to get me out with his Shroom and Hurricane, but luckily he doesn't. First thing I'm going to do right here is Scorch. Normally out of invis I would like to polymorph or Frostjaw them, but since he's a Boomkin, he's just going to immune my polymorph, and since he's a Boomkin, he's just going to shapeshift my Frostjaw, so those are not viable options right now. So instead I'm just going to get a quick Scorch off and Living Bomb him to get my burst going. Luckily I do crit with the Scorch, so I'm going to Infernal Blast to get my Hot Streak proc, and now I'm going to have a lot of beginning pressure to go with right here. So what I'm going to do is DPS Trinket, Palm Alter Time, instant Frostjaw, and quickly defreeze off of it so he doesn't shapeshift it. I'm going to Pyro, Alter Time back, and chuck my extra Pyros into him. He does Bark Skin it right here though. I'm going to Dragon's Wrath out of my Combuston and just get to a line of sight now since that was all my burst. I'm going to chuck my Palm Pyro. He actually pops Heart of the Wild, Scenario, and Ward Heals here, so he's going to be doing a lot of healing right now. He also has an instant Star Surge proc, as you can see, so I'm going to try to counterspell him and spell steal it, but he does get it off before I can steal it. He's going to now root beam me, and right here I could have blocked to stay ahead of the fight, but since I have so much damage coming into me, the root's going to break instantly, so instead I'm just going to try to get to a line of sight as fast as possible and evocate. He does sprint over to me and disorient my evo. I Infernal Blast him before the disorient to get my proc. I'm going to trinket the disorient to breath his clone. I'm then going to dot him up, cast Frost Shot to shatter to get a guaranteed crit. I'm then going to Frost Nova him, deep freeze him, and he actually does trinket this one. Because now all we have to go through is one more Bark Skin and Ursoc and we can actually win. He's going to actually clone me here. And after the clone, he pops Ursoc immediately. I think he got scared because I did deep him there and he doesn't have Bark Skin. So he's just going to Ursoc my Pyro. In my opinion, that was a mistake on his part, but it's okay, we all make mistakes. So out of this clone, I line of sight and reapply my barriers. Here's where I make a mistake. Instead of line of sighting and reapplying my barriers, I could have just Infernal Blast him quickly to get my hot streak. But now my heating up is going to expire, so I'm going to have to reapply it and wait another 8 seconds. So I'm going to Infernal Blast to get my stacks up. I'm going to Dragon's Breath him. Right here, he actually gets an instant Star Surge proc, so I'm going to quickly Blanket Silence him, but he does get it off before me, so that was another mistake on my part. I'm not going to Infernal Blast him. I do have my proc now, so I'm going to chuck it in without waiting for my deep because it's still on cooldown. I'm just going to line of sight and bandage, get a couple ticks for now. Here I Infernal Blast the Trent to get my proc, but I'm very unlucky and he actually goes away at the same time I Infernal Blast him. He expires at the exact same time, so I get nothing from it, which is really terrible. This duel so far is looking pretty bad for me. I'm just going to dot him up and try to line of sight. He runs in straight to me right now, so I'm going to Dragon's Breath him, but he disorients me at the exact same time, so I cannot set up off of it. So what I'm going to do is Frost Nova and defreeze him so I can just shatter him and do counter pressure while not letting him get uptime on me. So he's actually going to just Bark Skin this, so this is perfect. He has no more Bark Skins, he has no Ursoc, he has no Trinket or Heart of the Wild, which means I can actually kill him the next defreeze. So now I'm going to combust on him out of my deep freeze and just blink over and line of sight him until my next deep. I really have to try my best to live for 20 more seconds for my deep freeze to come up, and then I can eventually win the fight. He comes at me, I'm going to chuck my Pyro, Living Bomb him. He's going to root beam me again with a Starfall, so I'm just going to block that right now because he's just trying to burst me down. He's going to get a healing touch off and top himself off. I'm going to come out of Ice Block, Infernal Blast him into a Dragon's Breath, Living Bomb him. And right here I'm just going to try to get to the pillar, 6 more seconds for my deep freeze. And since I have nothing better to do, my Dragon's Breath is on cooldown, followed by my shields and my Infernal Blast. They're all not ready yet, and there's nothing to spell steal, so I'm just going to chuck a couple Ice Lances. Better to do some damage than no damage. I get rooted, so I'm going to blink to his line of sight, Infernal Blast him to get my proc. And at the exact same time, he actually gets an instant Star Surge proc right here. So I'm just going to alter time quickly. So before he throws it in on me, before I take big damage, I'm then going to Palm Frost Shot and defreeze him. And he actually chucks the instant Star Surge the exact same time I alter, so maybe like a millisecond after. So I'm going to alter time back to about 60-70%. So the Star Surge didn't really do much to me. I have a lot of damage going here. Here he applies a rejuvenation to heal himself and also gets another Star Surge proc. So I'm going to CS it. This time I actually CS it fast enough. And I'm going to spell steal his rejuve to get some heals on myself and spell steal his instant Star Surge proc to stop his damage. I'm not going to Infernal Blast him to get my proc. He actually disorients me right as I get my proc, so he might live, but I'm going to actually pre-block this clone to immune it, instantly come out right after, shatter him with the Ice Block Glyph, Dragon's Breath him so he cannot do anything, and finish him off. And as you can see right there, I pre-blocked this clone, which is not a bad thing to do if you're confident enough to score the kill. If you think he's dead right there and you want to go for it full on, then definitely block. Feel free to do that, but only if you know you're going to score the kill.